We're back, San Francisco. Let me put it in your booty.
Spears and Steinberg. You know what the it is? Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk. You know it's time to get this work. The real raw, gutter, uncut, cold. No political corrections. Always sleep. Being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes. Scribe, we lit. There's levels to this shit. Before you was on your mama. Aries Spears don't give a fuck. We talk about race a lot, racism. Much love to my loyal bag holders, rollers, loaders. We got them in the folders. The whole world on our shoulders. Spears and Steinberg. Yeah.
That was very immature on my part.
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks. We're still in San Francisco in terms of what you're hearing, but I'm sure we'll be in a different city in actuality. Dude, I'm excited. Someone hit me up on Instagram and told me season 2 is here. Remember when we watched and talked about New York Homicide?
Yeah.
Produced by Wolf.
Yep.
They got another one, and I assumed it was New York Homicide season 2, but they went West Coast.
L.A.
They went Cali, cuz. Nigga in your core. It's L.A. Homicide.
Yep.
So it's the same thing as New York Homicide, but now on the West Coast. I hope they don't jump the shark and do down south homicide. Be like, somebody knocked a woman's teeth out and sold them for meth.
If they do that, they're going to have to put the subtitles on the bottom.
Because, we don't read here.
I won't be able to understand what
in the
saying.
South. I'm from Mississippi.
Dude, when you say that, I still remember that moment, man.
Man, them teeth had a bottle open. Episode 1, I couldn't help it because I really wanted to watch this. I only watched one episode 1, which is about Phil Spector.
Yeah.
And only had 2 notes. So hopefully episodes 2, 3, and 4 will give me more.
I started to watch it, and then
Did you really?
Yeah, and then I couldn't do it.
What happened?
I don't know. I was wanting to see something else. I wanted to see something that didn't have death.
So it didn't get you bored?
No.
Okay.
I wanted something a little bit more uplifting than that. So
Right.
I moved on.
Okay.
I watched some. Oh, you know what I ended up watching was the one of the ones we're going to talk about. I ended up watching the
Dynasty.
The Hitman.
Oh, the Hitman. Dude, I guess I just got distracted. Plus, I needed to get out of my room. I just wanted fresh air. I started watching Hitman, and I was like, you know what? Don't do a disservice to yourself if you're not really gonna pay attention to it. So I'm like 15 minutes in, and I'm just on my phone. I'm kind of distracted. So I was like, you know what? Me and Andy got enough on the plate.
We'll get to that one later. But you know why? And I typed this out to you. And I said, no, I'll just say it to you on the podcast. Because you told me you watched the other one we talked about too.
Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk about today.
And
by the way, folks, it's on Netflix. Do you know what it's called exactly? It's a documentary, an hour and a half long, about one of the comedic greats who wasn't a stand-up, but he was such a staple in comedy and film.
Comedic actor
about Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
On Netflix.
I'll get it right now. Jesus.
You are a slow shooter. All you got to do is hit Siri and go Gene Wilder documentary.
Yeah, I should.
Watch this. I'm going to find this before Andy. Watch this.
Gene
Wilder documentary.
Remembering Gene Wilder.
And it popped right up.
Yeah, so mine did too. But
why do you always take the long way to pull your dick out?
Because when I do it that way, I get to see all the people that were on it, and
like you unbuckle your belt, you zip your jeans open, you pull your pants off one leg at a time.
Gene Wilder.
You pull your boxer shorts down, and then your dick is out.
Yeah,
just pull your dick out.
I got all.
Even if you got to pull it out over the belt.
I got all the people that were in it. I got everything. I got the director, the writer. I got everything on there now. The way I did it. That's why I do it that way. Anyway, but when you sent me the message and you said I just saw this, and then you said some stuff about it, then you said I'm going to watch Hitman next, and I go, I typed out to you, man, you did that shit in the wrong order.
Really?
Yeah. The reason is because after that connection that you would get with that first one, And the silliness of the next one, it's hard to get into it because you're more deep.
I'm glad I did it the way I did it.
Oh,
Because if
okay.
I had watched Hitman first, I might have been lackadaisical on Wilder. And I'm glad I watched Wilder first.
Okay, but I wouldn't be able to watch it that way because Hitman was silly and not. It's a sillier story. It's fine, and it's
Right.
apparently based on somewhat of a true story. But the Wilder thing, we went deeper than I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Okay, and I knew a lot about him, but I didn't get all of it.
Again, it's one of those things where, like, when we watched the Albert Brooks doc, I knew of Albert Brooks, but I wasn't invested in Albert Brooks. I knew of Gene Wilder, but I wasn't invested. And now let me be careful because we're about to slip into it, and I don't want to get to it just yet. But because it's comedy, it doesn't take long to get my attention.
Right, I understand.
Want to get political for a second?
Oh, why not?
Dude, I had to, and I was gonna send you this clip, but I was like, nah, I want Andy to see it spontaneously, and then have us dive right in while the body still has steam on it.
Okay.
This is what I love about what we do as comedians. We have a power, man, and sometimes when you watch comedians go up against pundits, political pundits, and people that are not comedians, we have the power to own them through humor and wit and quickness. And this was a moment that I relished in because he's such a pompous, arrogant asshole. And before I get to this, let me say, and I've always said, and somebody wrote an email that said, and I can't wait to read it, where they said, Aries, I'm mad at you because you let Andy get away with so many things politically, and you give him no pushback in areas where you should call him on his. And I want to say to that person, and I'm going to say it now and I'll say it again, I'm not a political guy. I don't watch politics. I'm not invested in politics. I don't care for politics. It's boring to me. And I've always said the only 2 times that I've invested in politics, and of these 2 times, more so one than the other, Obama's presidency for 8 years, he's the first black one. I gotta invest. And Trump, which I'm not really invested in, I just like the chaos. It's entertaining. But I'm not a political guy. So I can't give Andy the pushback that you might be able to give him or somebody else more knowledgeable about politics would be able to give him because I'm not that guy. But it kind of, made me throw my chest out a little bit because when I go, I'm a goddamn genius, I know when I'm right. And I saw a clip on TikTok where a brother was slamming Charlemagne, and he said, you took a L on that Bill Maher shit. And that's why I wanted you to see it, because I went, yeah, Charlemagne, you in deep waters. You with a dude, this is what he does. And he's a comedian. So he's sharp by nature. He's quicker than you. And I don't know exactly what I would have said to Bill Maher. I don't think I would have been equipped to handle that. And listen, I have no shame in admitting when I'm out of my depth. Again, I hate Candace Owens, but I know if me and her had to go back and forth, she'd probably beat me. Not that I'm not right, but she's more intelligently equipped to go places I don't think I could go, but I know I'm right. And that would be my retort to her. I'm right. Because I'm not eloquent enough to do what an Eric Dyson or Cornel West would do. I know if Eric Dyson or Cornel West were in that seat instead of Charlemagne with that discussion about Caitlin Clark, the results may have been different. But when the dude showed the clip, the way Bill Maher used Serena Williams as the example, he was lost. His tongue literally was out of his mouth. And he took an L on that. So I'm saying all that to say this. Here's this clip I'm about to show Andy, where Jon Stewart is, and I'm so glad he's back on The Daily Show where he belongs. No disrespect to Trevor Noah or any of the other hosts. That's Jon. And I know Jon left because he needed a break. He all but intended to retire. And, you don't know how much you love something until you get bored. So in retirement, he got bored. And I think he's back where he belongs. But he's on the show, and Bill Riley is talking about Biden. And he's presenting these facts. And at one point, the pompous asshole that Riley is, he smugly says to John with the paper that he's reading with these statistics, you want to hold on to this? Like, you know, do you need to see this? And the comeback with John, brilliant.
Food prices under Biden up 20%. Gas prices 38%.
Yeah.
Mortgage rates 160%.
Yeah, prices are going up.
Drug ODs up 36%. Okay? Car insurance 125% up.
Right.
These are folks. They have to spend that money.
Listen, there's no question that post-pandemic, this country and the world have suffered
Trump
from
had 2 years of post-pandemic.
Right, but Trump ran an $8 trillion deficit. He spent $1.7 trillion on tax cuts. He deregulated
Inflation
industry.
was
He cut
1.5% when he walked out the door.
Right, but look at it in relation to the world. I respectfully say, yes, inflation was too high, and that hurts American consumers.
You want this?
So what did Biden do to create that, though?
I don't know, and that's what I would have asked.
So basically, you wrote down a piece of paper, but you didn't look up the answer?
No. Food prices under Biden.
What do you make out of that?
What do you mean? What do I make out of it?
What do you think?
I think it was Jon Stewart is way more alert as a pundit. I love his comedian pundit.
Let me be specific. When he goes, I don't know, and the audience erupted and laughter. And he follows that up with, so you took this piece of paper, but you don't know the answers. What do you make of that?
Well, I love it because that is the truth, though. What are the answers? I mean, there are some answers, and the answers are you can't fix the pandemic. It's kind of funny because I've never said, I don't think I've said it in here, that this is all on Biden's shoulders. What I say about Biden is I don't know that he's there. Like, I don't know that he's there anymore. I'm mad that these are our two choices as we go into this political arena right now. It's very frustrating. It's very angry to me that this is the best we can do. It's also because this is the last of the baby boomers. The next person will be Gen X or lower. But there were so many baby boomers that the greatest generation, the baby boomer generation, hasn't given up any power. And they're old. And listen, this is not an ageism thing. But when you're so old and technology has gone so advanced and things have changed so much and you're not really there and now you're not even, you're a much slower person. You're elderly and your brain is starting to slow down. Obviously, I'm not trying to be mean towards him. But Biden isn't. I don't think he's equipped for this. What's coming, and to fix this, it's a long unwind from the pandemic. But both sides do this, and this is what's funny too. They blame Trump for having he lost more jobs. He was the only president to ever lose more. Yeah, it was the pandemic. The jobs went away because you couldn't go to work. You can use numbers. You can use any of these statistics to maneuver it to what you want to say. But no one was going to beat the pandemic. And honestly, Trump got the beginning of it, and Biden got the end of it. If you wanted to fix a lot of different things, you'd have to reverse. When you talk about the tax cuts that Trump did, it did spur the economy. It did grow the economy. But coming out of the pandemic, you would have had to reverse some of those tax cuts because you need the money, but so do the people, so need the money. And if you would have reversed them, you would have definitely signed off on not coming back as president. So some of those things are built in, and how do you fix them? You really can't. Not one administration is going to fix these problems. That's why the funny part about Trump is a lot of people are just, yeah, he's going to fix this. And I heard some of the RNC, people speaking and giving their little speeches. He ain't going to fix this. It's not going to wind down where you're just going to have this boom economy. Because if you do a boom economy, you're going to have a bubble and it's going to bust. It needs to. God. I do say these things about Obama and what I didn't like about Obama, but what he did do very well was to slowly and methodically bring us out of one of the worst recessions ever that could have been turned into a depression easily with when the housing market blew. And he did it very slow and methodical. That's what's going to have to happen with the next administration. And I don't know, Trump, if he does some slashing and does some, I don't know it could cause more problems. I don't know what the answer is, man. So when he said it, I wanted to go. If I was O'Reilly, I would have gone, I don't think anybody has the answers. What would you do? You know, I would have. But
did he look dumb in that moment?
He looked dumb because he didn't have a response for it other than, I don't know.
Right.
You know, it just, but that's why Jon Stewart's so good, because Jon Stewart's always been quick as a comic, but as a political pundit, man, he has this down, man. He sat in behind that desk for years, just knocking the shit out of both sides. He really did. It's what I like about Maher. He isn't taking any, you know, he lets you know that he has a side. I used to be what I would think was, I'm a Democrat. I used to be a liberal, and I'm not on that. I don't get that anymore. That party has moved away from me. But now he doesn't take any prisoners. He's just going to go after everybody. And that's what Stewart does too.
Dude, if you can, and again, I'm a huge Real Time with Bill Maher fan. And I went, you know, because he took a week off or something. And while he was off, the Trump thing happened, the botched assassination. And I went, and then he came back on, and I went, God, I can't wait till Bill Maher comes back to get his viewpoint on that whole thing. And I think that episode has aired this past Friday. So I can't wait to go home and watch that. But the week before, he had on this Jewish dude and this black guy. And
it sounds like the beginning of a good joke.
Yeah, it sounds like us. But at one point, I really want you to watch this episode because I want your feedback.
Okay.
The black guy goes on to talk about how something racially, he goes, my father had these experiences, blah, 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 and racism in America. And Bill Maher got so pissed off because, and Bill Maher has said this before, where he goes, I hate this idea that because I'm a white man, white people can't say certain things racially that we should be able to say in terms of race conversation. And again, Bill's a comic, so he has that extra bullet in the chamber. But I was getting mad because the black dude was trying to express something about what his father's experience is like in America. And I'm gonna be honest, the Jewish dude, his face was so punchable. He wouldn't shut the blah, 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 blah. He spoke at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it seemed like every time the black dude spoke, this Jewish dude jumped in, was talking with so fast and was saying so much, where at one point I'm laying in bed and I just screamed out, yo, shut the up, let the talk. So between the Jewish dude and Bill Maher, there's just this moment where I see this brother look like a deer in headlights, because he's dealing with Bill Maher, who's a comic, who's equipped to do to him what he did to Charlemagne. And then you got the Jewish dude, literally this brother's a sandwich. He's in the middle, he got Bill on the right, other dude on his left.
A white bread sandwich.
Man, and the other dude was just arguing everything that the black dude was saying, and I was getting mad, man. So I'm just like, you know, again, I'm going, if you have an Eric Dice, let me not even put it on them. If you have a Dave Chappelle, or you know who else I loved on Bill Maher? Mos Def.
Yeah.
When Mos Def was on, Mos Def is sharp. And I went, if there was just somebody black who was funny, intelligent enough, equipped to go at Bill Maher, comedian for comedian, wit for wit, that's great television, man. And that's what I hated about the Charlemagne thing. But let me go to back to Bill O'Reilly for a second. I remember that great moment when he was on Letterman and they were talking about 9/11 and Bush going right into the evildoers in Iraq and invading Iraq when they had nothing to do with 9/11. And Letterman said something about being thoughtful, and O'Reilly goes, well, I don't know what there is to think about. I don't know why you have to think about it. And Letterman goes, well, I have to think about it because I'm thoughtful. I'm it up and I'm paraphrasing, but the way Letterman responded to O'Reilly, it was the same thing with Stewart and O'Reilly. The audience clapped and applauded because, again, Bill O'Reilly comes off so smug sometimes. Like, and he was so smug about it with Letterman. Like, I don't know why you, he goes, well, I have to think because I'm thoughtful. And it was a great moment.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
And it was great. I would say this, though, and I haven't seen it, but I would say when you have Bill Maher who's saying on race and race relations that he feels like he can't speak.
Yeah.
And then you have the Jewish guy on the other side. And the Jewish guy has his experience with racism and how he was judged and how he was looked at. And so he's giving his opinion on it very quick because the Jewish, especially during the 60s when Jews were really, if you go back and do some research, and I can't wait to see what I get the emails on this, but Jews were integral on the civil rights movement. They came out to really support the civil rights movement. So that being said, they feel like they have a lot to say. This is what I would say to Bill Maher. This is what I would say to the Jewish guy. I think that Bill Maher is right that he should be able to express it because the only way we're going to get through something is to be able to talk about these things.
And he
together.
said that.
Yeah.
Bill said, well, at least we're having the conversation.
And the Jewish guy has his opinions and how he feels inside because of what he's been through. And so he recognizes some of the same things that the black gentleman, I haven't seen this, so I don't know, but I'm just going off of what I think right now. This is just what I think. And all that's relevant. But those two guys also have to realize, Bill Maher and the Jewish dude that I haven't seen yet, is that they have to understand that if they were walking into a building together, let's just go with a bank, let's go with anything that moves this country and offered the next step in creating equity, belief of the American dream, anything that you're walking to that has part of that. As you're walking towards the building, you're going to go in the doors. All three of you are going to walk into that building together. The black man's color walks into the building before he ever even opens the door. And if you don't adjust your thinking to understand that first, then don't say anything until you do understand that. Because it is relative. It is worth noting as you try to give your expression and what your history is and what you've been through is very important. But you have to also be able to see it, or at least try to have the empathy to understand what it's like that before you ever walk in the door, your color walked in way before you. And I think that's what's missing in that conversation when people are trying to have this, because they're not seeing that for what it is. And if you don't see that, then no one's people aren't going to want to listen to you or think that you should have an opinion because you haven't felt that or even connected with that feeling yet. And that's what I think is missing on some of these conversations. And I know that's missing from Maher because of some of the way he has said some things. He's seen it from he's seen it from a very clean perspective. These are the way things are. This is how it should be. And we should be able to walk into this door together. But he has to remember that the people on the other side of that door aren't seeing it and aren't the same person that he is. And when they saw those three guys walking towards this door, they saw the black man outside. They didn't even know. They might not even notice the other two, but there's a black dude about ready to walk into this door. And that always is going to happen.
Yeah, my problem with Bill Maher sometimes is he acts like he can't be, and even Bill Burr alluded to this when I saw that great clip. He acts like he's never wrong. Like he's always right. He's the smartest guy in the room, and he's never wrong.
Well, okay, the difference is really smart guys in the room, you probably don't know that there's smart guys in the room. Because real smart guys, and this is why I say I couldn't be on that show, real smart guys listen. They don't talk until they heard everything.
Andy, I still think you underestimate yourself.
I think you got to listen, and you got to
do listen.
You got to really pay attention, and then you have to. And being the smartest guy in the room isn't always to your benefit, man. You really have. There was this great story where this truck, the semi truck, gets stuck under a bridge. It didn't read the clearance, and it was like 2 inches too short, and it went under like at 55 miles an hour. And there's all these people trying to figure out how to get it out. They had these all these cranes coming in, and they're trying to pull this semi out because it's like 5 feet stuck under, and they can't get it out. They're worried about breaking the bridge. And a little kid came walking by and goes, "Hey, why don't you guys just let the air out of the tires?" Smart doesn't always lead to the easiest answer. It's like Steve Jobs. I think it was Steve Jobs that said it. It might have been one of the other tech geniuses, but because I always want to hire the laziest person
Because they'll work how's that go?
They want to hire the laziest person because they're going to find the simplest way to get something done. And you know, we miss that sometimes because we're so busy being smart and doing some mental jerk off to ourselves, you know, like that. And I don't want to shit on Mark because I think he is genius. I think he's brilliant at the way he presents things. But there is a little of that where you have become so, your opinion has been very streamlined. You've really worked it out. You really thought about it. You have this idea. And so you are the smartest person in the room for most rooms. But you got to also pull back a little bit and take a look at what you're going to say and why you're thinking it. And I think that's what gets missed. And you got to also look at who you're talking to, because nothing's worse. And that's what Bill Burr was so good at. As he tried to show how intelligent he was, Bill Burr made him feel stupid for his shoes and his pants. You're wearing slacks? You know, like, who are you?
Right.
You know, like, I came in here with jeans. You want to have a conversation? You know, the smartest guy in the world might know everything about art, might not know a damn thing about an auto mechanic. So if you're going in to talk about art to an auto mechanic, you're an idiot. You know, you might blow everyone away with all you know about art, but if you don't know anything about the car and you're trying to have a conversation with that dude, you're the idiot. I think Mars sometimes just puts too much out there, and that's I think what Burr was saying, and I do believe that what I do like about Mar and I hate about him at the same time is you should believe that your opinion is correct, but you should also be opening to hearing other people's opinion to see if your opinion needs a little adjustment.
So Gene Wilder, this great documentary. What was it called?
Make me look it again.
See, once you put your out, it stays out.
It is called. I got it right here. Remembering Gene Wilder.
Remembering Gene Wilder on Netflix. The first thing that jumped out at me about him as a person, put aside the comedian, but him as a person, the word sincere. This dude is so genuine. He was so genuinely sincere as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, some guys you go, and here's a good example of what I mean. My baby mother put me onto the show, which I fell in love with, King of Queens, Kevin James.
Yeah.
He's so charming and so funny on that show, but everything I ever heard was he is an asshole in real life. And you go, and that's why, again, the saying, you don't ever want to meet your heroes. Because when you see a personality on film or in television where you go, man, I bet you that person, I would love to have a beer with them, throw back a beer. And I've had people hit me up on the gram. Man, when you come to town, man, shot on me. Let's smoke one. And Andy will tell you, I don't smoke on the road. I don't really even smoke anymore. So people get so excited. Yo, you want to burn one before you show? You're going to get no from me every time. Because I don't mix that kind of, you know, I don't mix drugs and not even a drug. I just don't, I'm not going to, I'm about my business when it's showtime.
Yeah.
So, what time is it? Game time. Who? I got a Chicago Bulls laser-like focus, so I'm not getting high. Once upon a time ago, I used to, when I was in the dark liquor, I would drink Crown Royal before shows. I don't drink before the show. I drink after the show. I'll take a drink with me for props, but yeah. So the idea and the image of this person that you build up in your head, man, they're gonna, because they're so fun-loving in the movies or on that show, you're gonna get disappointed when you find out they maybe aren't. But with Gene Wilder, you really got a sense that this dude was likable, lovable, accessible, off and on camera.
I think that generation is way different than the following generations that came up in Hollywood. I think that there was the money was different. So it wasn't just about the money; it was also about the craft. I think money has changed everything because it seems that we're only interested in the money. It's not about the craft; it's the money. What makes money?
Right.
But I think at that time the craft was very important. And then when you see Gene Wilder, you see him as kind of silly. Like he's to me. Okay, this you're going to see in this documentary. You're going to see what's the other guy's name that Marty Feldman. I see Marty Feldman. I see over here, all the way on one side, and then I see like regular, good-looking actors kind of over to the other side. Marty Feldman's a complete opposite of a good-looking actor.
I don't remember Marty Feldman.
The guy with the big eyes that kind of go off.
Oh, that dude, yeah.
Gene Wilder's in the middle.
So in other words, he's not Cary Grant, but he's not Marty.
Right. But if you said, who do you look more like? Cary Grant, it'd be like Marty Feldman.
Right.
So there's this approachability to him. And again, going back to those older times in Hollywood, there aren't a lot of guys like Gene Wilder anymore because you have to be like sellable. You have to have this like look. So those guys those guys are more character actors where they kind of pushed him out almost to a leading man.
You can be funny looking as long as you're funny.
You got to be funny. But what you said about sincerity, he had a way of delivering comedy in a sincere way.
Yes.
So
very vulnerable.
Yeah. So it felt authentic.
Yeah.
Even though like when they're talking about it in this, he's delivering he's saying it in a way that you're laughing at it, but you're feeling the emotion of what he's saying at the same time. So that's Gene Wilder to me. And man, I when I look back at this and I went and saw this, and I don't want to jump ahead because I don't know where you're going to go next, but I remember one of the first movies that made that like where it hits you, like you went, wow,
Right.
It was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory for me as a young kid.
Yeah, that didn't do nothing for me.
Dude, he was so, like when I watched it, I wanted to watch it again and again. And the fact that he made a mistake but he still won because he came back and apologized. Right. It had a life lesson in there for me. Mm-hmm. And Gene Wilder, this guy who's just this like kind of the character that he played, we've seen other people play that character and they're basing it off what he did. I don't know if anybody else could have played it. Did
you see the? Well, now they've done 3, but there was Willy Wonka with also Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, and I
you didn't see that one?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, you hated it.
I hated
and
it.
have you seen the most current one?
No, I haven't seen the current one yet. I hated Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that character and that movie was a little too. I don't know. It felt like an acid trip.
Well, it's that time too. It's this, it's the 70s, and it has that little touch of that. But it was, I felt like the character and the kid, and the idea that all these rich kids were getting these prizes, and all this kid they bought him one candy bar. They had no money, and they put all their money together to buy one candy bar, and he's the winner. And the Willy Wonka character sees the authenticity of the working hard kid who has this one shot and he makes the most of it, and that's who Willy Wonka kind of singled out. I guess as a kid, when you come up the way that I did, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't like we weren't talking about stocks at our house, we weren't talking about stocks and bonds, so you related to that and the way he played that character, and then I was watching it and I was like going, I didn't even think about it. I didn't know he sang, and then you're watching this, he's on Broadway doing, the talent that people had back then, it gets minimized when it goes up on television or on a movie. These guys were doing Broadway shows. They were singing, they were dancing, they were doing the whole thing. So I don't know. I just, when I saw that, I was like, how did I not know that I wanted to be part of this? Like, it hit me in such a way. And when I saw that, and I honestly, when he sings and they do the little clip of him singing in Willy Wonka, I almost cried. I got teary eyed because I was like, oh man, I forgot about me.
Is that the moment that got you? Or is there more than one moment?
No, there's more than one.
Because there was one moment specifically that got me, but I'm awake.
Yeah, but let's go back to where you are in this, because
I just came up with the title.
Okay,
let me tell you what the movie is. It's a black gay man that off other black gay men and them in the ass. And it's, the lead character is a black gay man, Willie Wankum in the Chocolate Factory. A black man named Willie Wankum in the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wankum in the Chocolate Factory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wins awards.
Okay. He said part of his early influences was Danny Kaye, who I'd never heard of, but I heard of these other two, Sid Caesar and Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. As a comic, now when you look at those old greats, they feel dated.
Yeah.
But my question is, do you think if you were a comedian at that time, knowing what you know now and your style now, you could adjust to that time and be funny?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I think we all could, because what the difference is, and I guess we could shout this out. May his life be a blessing, man. Bob Newhart just passed. May his memory be a blessing to all of us, man. He just passed, and his album, The Button Down Mind of, Bob Newhart. Dude, that was original back then. The reason we have become who we've become is because every time they cut the grass, man, they change it. They cut the grass, man. All the stuff that was new then is not new any longer. And so we keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's why when I look at Chappelle and I go, he's going deeper. We're not caught up to Chappelle. Some people go, he's not that funny. No, he's funny. We haven't caught up to his funny yet. He's taken this to another level. Where a lot of people probably thought that Button Down Mind, the way he was doing the little stories, wasn't funny at the time. And now we listen to it again, and it's not as funny to us now, but it's because our ear has changed. We're looking for different things. We could have been funny at that time, but we would have been different. And the one who I would even say can show us this is I'm not going to forget his name. The comedian that ended up doing Gregory.
Right.
Gregory was very clean, very slow. He progressed though as things changed for him as well in life. You tell me Gregory wouldn't be able to be, he was funny then, and if he was young and now and doing it again, he would be funny today. It was his sense of what was right and wrong that was in his funny that made him great. I think we would be funny. I think we would be funny. We would just be different. We wouldn't be, you couldn't say the same things that we were saying today. It wasn't, you go to jail for some of the things that we would say right now. There's people who went to jail for it back then. So, yeah, we would be just as funny. We'd just be different.
Right. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I could be funny in that time.
You would have been edgy at that time. It would have just
whatever what edge was.
That was, yeah.
Right.
You would have went over to that edge, and you would have looked over and peered over and kept putting.
Okay, because I'm gonna go. Was there really edge ever at that time?
Yes.
What was okay?
There's a Lenny Bruce does this thing, and he just uses it's just come hard. It's just about coming, and he's using it in the two ways you can say coming and coming.
Right.
And so he just plays with that, and then he has there's a drum beat in the back. Did you come, honey? Did you come hard? Did you come? And it's just this play on words. Right. That was edgy then. You would have been the first one to jump on the edge. How can I make these words? How would I make this? How would I make this disturbing to people? How would I change their perspective? Because all comedy is, and I really believe this to be true, and I say this on stage, is just taking something everybody sees, changing the perspective so you see it in a different light, whether it's funny to you or not. Some people it's going to be funny to, and they're going to see something that was staring in front of them the whole time. And they're going to see it in a different way, and it's going to make some people laugh, and other people aren't going to care, and other people are going to be offended by it. That's what we do. We give you a different view from everything that you're dealing with in life. I think that's what we do.
Right. Okay. I said this because when they had mentioned, I forget what the name of that first movie that Gene Wilder did, that Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks played an intricate role in both his personal life with Gene as his friend, and also basically putting him in his first movie.
Yeah, it was the producers.
Yes.
It was originally called Springtime for Hitler.
And listen, I don't know if you want to call it luck or miracles, because they say in show business you need a little bit of luck. But I go, miracles have to happen in movies, a la the execs didn't want Gene in that movie, or whether it's the studio not wanting Al Pacino in Godfather. And of course, forgive me, people, as I'm repeating myself, as I so often do on this podcast with certain subjects. This is why I hate this business. Because there are people in charge of your destiny who don't know what the they're talking about. But they're in these powerful positions when it's like, and thank God for Mel Brooks, who was like, yeah, you know, I told the studio he's not going to be in it, one of the execs, because he would never show up or wouldn't watch dailies. But by the time he found out that he was still in it, we had shot so much that in order for us to reshoot, it would have cost too much money.
And they were okay with it by that time.
They were okay with it. And of course, the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, what I really like about it is I like what Mel Brooks said. This is what I did all the time. Like Mel Brooks just,
Right.
you know, and that's the difference where you had, and this is the power dynamic that's shifted too, though. And movies aren't just a few $1 million. They're, you know, can be hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So it's different. And these people, they have to have a purpose for their job. So they say these things. But back then, you know, you were the writer, the director. You had a little bit more power. Like you could get away with a little bit. And if you produce something that they
And
knew,
you still can, depending on who you are.
yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I was going to get to. When people who have the ultimate belief in themselves as a creator, they tend to do this, and that's what what we see happen. I thought that was great. Zero Mostel, who is the other, I think I'm saying his name right, who's always, you know, this is funny when you're you know, it's generational. It goes like I've always heard about this guy as this like incredible actor, and when you watch it, is he incredible? He's just this big guy.
Yeah.
Is he an incredible actor? I guess maybe at that time he was an incredible actor.
Right.
But Gene Wilder does amazing in this movie. It does elevate him to another level. But success in Hollywood at that time, you could be successful and then be off the radar like the next day. It isn't the same where like, you know, you were famous because you were in a movie. But once the movie passed and people moved on, if you didn't have something else to pick you up and take you, maybe you weren't staying famous. Right. So it's a different time period. It's really it's interesting time period when these people came up, and then again, like I said, to have the talent that you had to be, you couldn't just be an actor. You had to be an actor. You had to be a singer. You had to be a dancer. You had to have multiple skills to continue.
Right. And then I didn't know that they said Willy Wonka was a flop at the box office.
It was a flop at the box office.
Despite Roger Ebert's positive preview. And this is what's scary about this business, man. You just don't know. You don't know. You could stack the deck as much as you can with all the right things, which is a good thing. That helps. You write director, write writer, write stars, budget, production. You give yourself a winning chance. But you just don't know. There's no guarantee to none of this.
But let me ask you that, though, because it's an all-time classic, though, now. But it didn't hit at the box office. But it's a classic.
Scarface didn't hit at the box office.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
Scarface. So what would you rather be? And I mean this. Would you rather be in a movie that tanks but lives on forever as a classic? Or would you rather just be in the hit that was a big deal for a minute and then it's gone?
But is there such a thing as a hit for a big deal and then it's gone? I don't know if that really exists.
You know, I'll give you one that's a big deal movie. It made a lot of money.
Right.
And I guess the people in there became famous from it. But let me just... Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Which I never saw.
But I don't think it lives on.
Was that Steven Spielberg?
It's Steven Spielberg. It's
about the aliens?
And
Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah, beep, beep, beep,
right,
beep.
Right.
Well, we moved on technology-wise, everything. So that it doesn't fit into the same, like, is this a movie that people in generational are going to watch every year?
Right.
Where, like, these other movies, you talk about a gangster film, we're going to go right to Scarface. You talk about, like, this.
Right, I see what you're saying.
I mean, what do you want to live on forever, or do you want to live in that moment and get that reward?
I don't know that there's a bad to either one.
No, I guess there's not.
Because if you're Al Pacino and you have this illustrious career and this body of work that goes well beyond Scarface, then you can have a Scarface.
Yeah.
But if that's like the real question for that is the dude that played Manny.
Yeah.
You know, Al Pacino had a career after that.
You're right.
Manny didn't. I mean, he might have been in some things, but you know, Manny ain't. You know what I mean? He ain't Al Pacino. So it depends. I guess it depends on your position.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's this business. Yeah, do they ever come back? They never come back and apologize to you though when your movie
And that's
becomes...
the part that pisses me off. Someone should lose their job.
Well,
If you're the guy that said no to Al Pacino, a la Godfather, or no to Gene Wilder, a la the producers, and it goes to do what it does, you should lose your job.
well, the biggest one then is Young Frankenstein, the one that he
Yeah.
wrote and did, and they said, and we're going to do it in black and white,
And they got resistance.
and they canceled the deal. And so they take the deal to Fox, and Fox gets the movie.
Why can't? You know what it is? It reminds me of Jerry Krause and the Bulls.
Yeah.
Let Phil be Phil. Let Phil manage Michael. Stay your ass in the office and just sign the check.
Okay, that's true, but here's the thing that we don't know. And I'm going to say this, and maybe, you know, we can prove it in movies.
Leave talent alone.
But how do we know that Jerry Krause doesn't break up the team, and the next year someone gets hurt and they don't make the playoffs, and then they break up the team afterwards anyway, and they got nothing for anybody? They didn't get anything from anything.
They've earned the right to make that mistake.
I agree with you on that. That's the only answer that I think is acceptable.
They earn the right.
They earn the right to have that happen.
Yes, because that, even if that happens, you far more benefited from all the great years than you taking that L for that moment.
So-
and it's a moment.
So if you have producers and directors and writers that have earned the moment, get off their
Get off. Let them do what they do, man. Jesus. And you know, let me be fair. Maybe because I'm not on the other side of it. Maybe I just can't see it. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm speaking from a place of ignorance. Because maybe if I was on the one wearing a suit, the one signing the check, I don't know what that looks like from those lenses. But I just have a hard time believing. It's that thing. It's that thing of show business. It's just, and people try to make the show bigger than the business, bigger than the show. I don't believe one is bigger than the other. I believe they're both equal. And maybe this is me being biased, but I have to lean a little more towards the show. Because without the show, you ain't got no business.
I'm glad you said that. Because of this, we're going to take a second here because the show has to be put on pause because we need to do a little bit of business.
There you go. Coming out of that, that's perfect. Coming out of that, 3, 2, 1. Now this is the part. Well, no, that's not really the part, but it is the part. This is the part that got me a little bit. And clear the dust, y'all. Not that there's any dust because I'm constantly on it, but whew, this is me stepping on my soapbox. The Gilda Radner part. Now I didn't know they were married.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Gilda Radner, the bad pregnancy, the ovarian cancer, the talent, she got the love of her life. Andy, I just don't understand this life thing. I don't understand this life thing. I put out a post earlier that I reposted. Somebody else posted it, but I reposted it where I go, somebody said, the fact that Keith Richards has outlived Richard Simmons really makes me question this eating healthy and exercise thing. Andy, I don't understand this thing called life. Here's Gilda Radner, talented, beautiful. Again, I don't know what she was like personally. Maybe when she was not on camera, she liked to punch babies in the face and kick seals in the stomach. Baby seal, I don't know. But from what I gather, she was a great, loving human being. Like Gene Wilder, sincere. I got sincerity from her the way I did Wilder. And that's probably why they made such a good match. But here's this talented person, good, loving human being. She has a bad pregnancy. She finds the love of her life, gets ovarian cancer, and dies at 43. I don't understand this thing,
Okay.
man.
I can't justify any of that. I don't know how to explain it, but they did skip over a little bit in there because I did know I was a fan of Gene Wilder and I was a fan of Saturday Night Live, so I understood the Gilda Radner story that's in this too. And you can watch the Gilda Radner has a doc as well, but it wasn't all like happy and joyous.
Between the two of them?
Well, it wasn't that it wasn't happy and joyous. She was married, and this is when you're talking about sincerity. And there's some other things that are said about Gene Wilder in this. Gene Wilder, what I did really kind of appreciate him, and it's about self, and it's about really taking care of your spiritual self. He didn't really want to have a lot to do with her at first because she was still married when they met. And she was going through a divorce. And if you look at his career and you kind of read in a little bit in between the lines on this, he had a really good on-camera relationship with Richard Pryor. But they didn't have an off-camera relationship because that wasn't going to be healthy for him.
Right.
He was very pragmatic. He was very concerned about his spiritualness, how he was moving through this world.
Right.
And that, I think, is a big key to his success and how he was able to do well. So there was some issues there, but when he did succumb to the love of Gilda Radner, and they were together, then it is very disappointing because here's a guy who is really careful about what he does and how he proceeds with life and tries to make the best decisions.
Right.
And she pursued him, and once he was in, it was tragic because she felt that this was the right person for her, and obviously he felt that way. And then to have it, wanting to have that kid. And then she loses the kid, atopic pregnancy, and then they discover through that she has ovarian cancer, and she can't. And like he said, thought she was going to beat it. Always thought she was going to beat it. Positive person. Always thought she was going to beat it.
Like losing the kid wasn't enough. Life's got to go, now watch this. Like losing the kid wasn't enough. Ovarian cancer too. Again, I sorry, Aries is repetitive. My saying, I know that life ain't fair, but why does it go out of its way to be cruel? Like, come on.
Well, but, the other side of that story is, she was very public about her situation. She was on a lot of talk shows. She talked about her cancer a lot. It brought more awareness to it, brought more money to to getting ahead of it as much as they can with cancer, and brought just the awareness. More women started getting checked. More women started doing better. She's made a contribution.
She was the vessel for the people.
She was.
The God put a message through her, and now she's in a better place because she was the vessel for the people for the greater good.
And I hate to say it this way, but she had the atopic pregnancy, so she lost the kid, and now she has cancer. What if they would have had the kid?
I don't want to be anybody's vessel.
Well, but what if they?
I don't want to be the vessel, Andy.
You are the vessel. You're a comedian. You're a vessel.
Oh, in that way.
Yeah.
So Aries, you're the vessel. You bring the humor to people's lives and you uplift them.
You're the vessel.
I didn't even think about that.
So, but what if
you're such a positive?
Nah, I'm a realistic person. I don't know that I'm positive. I mean, it's funny because you talk about never meet your idols or your heroes,
yeah.
And I think about myself. If I met myself, I wouldn't like me. I wouldn't like me. I'm not positive. I'm realistic, and it's upsetting because sometimes I want to be positive, and I'm just realistic. But what if he would have had the kid? Then he would have had the kid. The kid would have been not had the mom. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a good life. I'm not saying that might have been helpful to him to complete who he was. But then now you have the kid that you're raising as you lost your. I don't know I'm not saying that would have been that it would have been worse for him to have the kid. So much you look at it and you take it all negatively, but. Who knows what happens if he's raising a kid without his wife, and who knows what happens then? I'm starting to get to the point where I know bad happens, and I'm not going to question it. I'm going to look at it and just try to figure out how to move through it.
This is why, again, I go this life thing. Like, you know, later on in his life, towards the end, Gene Wilder succumbs to dementia and Alzheimer's, and I'm going, him and Mel Brooks are around the same age, and Mel is fine, but Gene gets Alzheimer's and dementia, and I just, like, if I could meet God, if there is such a thing, if he exists, she exists, whatever it is, I would go, why?
You would turn into Christopher Walken?
I would turn into Christopher Walken and go, why? Like, why for one person? Like, I'm patting myself on the back here because I'm a goddamn genius. And again, my goal is to one day put some of my sayings in a bit. These aren't the punchlines, but I think they're poignant sayings. The thing about life and being unfair and being cruel, my other one again is this. We all know that everybody has a hand to play. And I go, life is like one big casino. Everybody's got a hand to play. Some people go on and beat the house, while most of us just get to enjoy the 99-cent buffet and the free drinks. Why is two old men around the same age, one is dealt a hand of nothing, bad, and the other one gets Alzheimer's and dementia? Why, God? Why?
Well, we don't know what Mel Brooks has been through.
Mel Brooks he's still alive, right?
Yeah,
He's still alive, but at his age, no dementia, no Alzheimer's.
But we don't know what other things he's been through or what loss he's had. No one gets out of this unscathed. We all take our lumps.
When you get to be that old, the only lump left is death.
Yeah.
So you got to take something. That lump is, everybody's going to take that lump.
Yeah.
But prior to the final sleep, you know, some motherfuckers is vibrant and still can versus one who's not. Why is that?
I have no idea, but I you know what? I don't understand dementia the way that I would like to know a little bit more about it. People in my family have gone through it. But is it harder on the person that is going through it, or is it harder on the people around them that are dealing with that person that doesn't remember who or what they are? That
is what brought me. That was my tear moment when his then current wife says he just wanted to go swim in the pool, and then after he got out the pool and shook his head to clear his ears of the water, he said basically, "All right, that's enough of that. I've done that." Then he goes upstairs to lay in bed, and Ella Fitzgerald is playing because she goes, "We always played music in the house," and he turns to her and he goes, "I trust you, and I love you," and then he dies. That's the part that got me. Because I just went, you know, we should all hope to be so lucky that you have someone in your life that when you're starting to succumb to the end, that they take care of you. And it made me just go, damn, like I'm 49 and I'm, you know, God willing, I'm far from anything tragic. But I'm going, do you even have somebody right now who would take care of you? Do you have somebody you trust? And that's heavy, man.
You better get some. I ain't taking care of you.
Listen, I wouldn't want you to, because what I'm gonna need you to do, you're gonna have to love me.
But that's we did skip over that. And I just want to hit that real quick. Is that he did meet this woman afterwards, not looking, and this is the one thing that I did find amazing about this. After the whole Gilda thing,
yeah,
he's not looking. He's just and he ends up doing a charity event where he ends. She was part of the group. He ends up doing that movie with Richard Pryor, the Hear No Evil, See No Evil.
Yeah,
and he wants to get it right. The fact that he can't hear.
Yeah.
And he meets this woman who works with the hearing impaired.
Yeah.
So she's not in the industry. That's the greatest part to me. He got to have, you know, it seems like the industry itself, when it's very incestuous in a way, you know, you want to work with someone that's in the industry. You want to have a relationship with someone in the industry because then you know what it is, you know what you're doing, but it's a very hard place for two people. And people in this business aren't always the most secure people anyway. And you have fame, you have some fortune. That isn't always the best recipe. And some people have done excellent with it. I mean, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson.
Right.
They seem to have navigated through that beautifully.
Right.
But that's the exception. But he found someone outside the industry that he respected for what she did and what she brought to it. And I thought that was beautiful, the way that it works out.
But, and it's a good example that you use Rita and Tom, because I think the through line, when you look at again, those people's character, Tom, Rita, Gene, his wife, I got to go to, again, that word, sincerity. I don't know Tom Hanks. I've never met Tom Hanks. But you can't tell me that the one thing we don't all feel about Tom Hanks is you get the sense he's a genuine, nice, good-hearted. And in Hollywood, what's hard for people to survive in terms of marriage and a life is because egos get in the way. There, again, I don't know this. I'm not stating from, this is I know as a fact. I don't know these people, but you get a sense from people. You get a sense. And I look at certain celebrities and go, I know I don't know this, but in terms of what I've read, interviews, their personality on screen and interviews, I get a sense they got a little bit of a bravado about themselves. And when two people have that bravado, then there's something lost. With Tom Hanks and Rita and Gene and I go, these seem like the type of people where if they saw a regular civilian in pain or in need, they would help them. Whereas certain other celebrities wouldn't even give you the look of a look.
There's just something about finding the right one, man. I don't know what that is, but like in Hollywood, it is very rare. I can think of the other one I can think of is Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw.
Right.
Some of the older ones, like Mel Brooks has had his wife, I think, forever. They were married forever. I don't know if they're still. I don't know if she's. You don't know if there's. That's the other thing too. If you don't know the other person's significant other is still alive, that's a pretty good relationship. Because you didn't publicize it, you didn't put it out there. You weren't you didn't try to be a famous couple. I'm not. I'm not on it. I'm saying that I think it's beautiful. But when you're in that business, there's and with Steven Spielberg, that's a little different. He's a director. He's behind the camera. But the people in front of the camera, we are. I'm a comic. I need attention. I tell her all the time, I need attention. Like, I haven't been on the road for 2 weeks. She goes, you're so annoying. Why are you so annoying? Like, and I go, because I haven't gotten any attention, and that's your job now. That's her job.
Right.
And that's why I think it's harder, because if you're in the position where you're getting that attention on the road, not a physical attention, but just attention, like some, people are laughing. And then when you come home, if the other person at the home needs attention too in that same way, not just from you, but from bigger attention, that doesn't seem like it works out very well.
I don't sense sincerity in Steven Seagal.
I don't
sense nice guy, sweet. And from the stories we've heard, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not judging. I don't want to have to judge these people. I'm trying to judge. I'm just saying it is a difficult thing in this business to be in these kind of relationships. So when he had that relationship with a woman who, and I think people that work with special needs, people who have special needs, there's a different part of your soul that opens up. And I don't know if you hear me, but when people tell me I'm a special education teacher, I'm a speech pathologist, or what, I always thank them, because I admit openly, I love my son True. I could do anything for True. I would throw myself in front of a bus for True, but for someone else's kid, nah.
But we know if they piss you off, you kids, they eating patio pizza.
Patio pizza. but I talked to him about that when I was out there this last week. But for someone to make that their career, to open up their heart, to be able to do that, those are special people, man. They're special.
Let me ask you something. What's Blazing Saddles like if Richard Pryor's in it?
The funniest part about that is, to me, as you're asking this, is you're looking at who Gene Wilder's career really elevates. But it was already a big career, but it elevated that with that pair. Like, I wish they would have done a buddy cop movie. But So he has all these movies with him that were excellent movies. Okay, I mean, I watched Silver Streak again. It wasn't as excellent as I thought it was, but at the time, it was something. It was good. Now, what if it is Richard Pryor?
Dude, let me tell you something. I think we were all robbed of probably, and what's so crazy is Blazing Saddles undoubtedly goes down as one of the greatest comedies ever made.
Yep.
To even say that and know that, knowing we were robbed of the greatest, what could have been the greatest gift Richard Pryor could have ever given us if he's in that role.
Well, and does it change his career too? Because that's a more, but I don't know. Cleveland Little.
Yeah.
He played it amazingly.
Yes, that's why I'm saying it's so crazy because you go, that movie is such a classic and was so great, but damn it.
What if the way Richard Pryor would have played it and maybe a little up instead of like low key like Cleveland Little did? Do you think it changes the movie?
When you say up, what do you mean up? Like,
More of a more funny, more.
Rich, this is why I'm saying this. That movie was so and I
Well, he wrote it. He was one of the writers.
Right, but I think I've said this before. Eddie Murphy, in terms of box office movies, eclipses the shit out of Richard Pryor. Stand up, Richard eclipses the shit out of Eddie. Eddie only had Delirious and Raw. Richard had a plethora of stand-up specials. But that being said, Richard never really blew me away in the movies like Eddie Murphy. And I know when you talk about Silver Streak and what was the other one with Gene Wilder?
There was the rodeo. I don't remember that one.
The movies with Gene Wilder.
Hear no evil, see no evil.
That was kind of like
That was at the end.
That's the equivalent of Sean Connery doing Never Say Never.
Okay.
The both. Richard wasn't Richard. He was a shell of himself. But in Richard's heyday, in his prime, whatever the movies were with Gene Wilder, none of Richard's movies ever blew me away like that. But I think Blazing Saddles would have been
the breakout.
That's because all you got to do is go, Richard, be you. Action.
But
what that movie was in terms of tone, and at that time, edgy because it dealt with race comedically. It wasn't scared to go there. That's Richard. That's Richard. And the fact we never got that with him is the greatest crime in cinematic comedic history.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but the way that it was done well. So, but does Richard do it in a different way?
I don't think so. I think Richard is just Richard.
Okay. But have you watched some of his old movies, like JoJo Dancer?
Dramatically, yeah. JoJo Dancer. What was the one he did? Lady Sings the Blues. Dramatically, that was a beast.
Okay, and then I watched the one where he's running for office. Damn, I can't remember the name of it. I was just talking about this the other day. Dude, his movies weren't bad. They just weren't. They didn't move the needle the same way.
Exactly. The way Eddie Murphy did. They didn't have that kaboom the way, Eddie was a box office star, a rock star. I never got the sense that Richard's movies were box office rock star-ish type shit. His stand-up was.
Well, what's interesting, though, about saying that, though, 48 Hours. Does 48 Hours that same movie without, what's his name? Who's the...
Eddie Murphy?
No, not Eddie Murphy.
Nick Nolte?
If it's not Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte, does that movie...
Oh, I think Nick is interchangeable.
You think he's interchangeable? You think you could drop anybody else in there?
Yeah, you could.
I don't know, man.
No, man. I listen, don't get me wrong, because of what we know it as we've seen it and what we grew up on. Yes, Nick and Eddie were great. But I think you could put a bunch of guys who could do what Nick did. You can't replace what Eddie did.
No, but you have to have someone that could bounce off Eddie that way.
I think some reputable dramatic guys could do that.
But Richard didn't have anybody like that other than Gene Wilder.
Right. But Blazing Saddles was such a movie that was tailored around Richard's powers that you didn't need anybody else. You would have needed anybody else. And then, throw in Gene Wilder now with him in that movie.
Yeah, but they're different kind of movies. That's a parody of a Western. Eddie did a movie, the street movie of where was that supposed to be?
San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's a different that it's not a period piece that you go back into a Western. We're talking about today, crime fighting. I didn't see Richard get a movie like that.
No.
I think that the genre didn't meet up with him at the time. The movies that they were making at the time.
But do you really see Richard as a Reggie Hammond? Maybe no. Let me not do that. Because Richard was so gutter and from the streets, he could have pulled that off.
But there was something about the young slickness of Eddie Murphy that I never saw in Richard. The slickness, the young slickness.
I'm gonna tell you a movie where he played one scene and a part that, again, to me is funnier than any movie he's ever done as the star. When he played the con man in the Sidney Poitier Bill Cosby movie.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah.
When they went to go see the Private Eye. When he played the con man Private Eye. That's Richard.
Yeah.
That scene, that moment, that character, that's Richard.
Well, even when he's like the pimp preacher in Car
That's
Wash.
Richard. Yeah. We needed a whole movie of that. We never got that.
No.
Him is, again, whether he's the Private Eye or whether he's the preacher, that's Richard. He comes from that world of winos and junkies and drug dealers and pimps and pushers and players. Give me a whole hour of Richard in that world. That's Richard.
Yeah, and make it that it's happening at that time period. I think that was missing. But the movies, Brewster's Millions is the one that I was talking about.
Another
Dude,
one.
Dude, if you look back at it, especially today, where we're looking at this election coming up, voting for none of the above. I mean, it was so out there ahead. It was ahead, man. There's other movies that I like.
Private Eye Washington is the role he played in it. I can't remember if it was Uptown Saturday Night or Let's Do It Again, but he played Private Eye Washington.
Dude, yeah, we didn't get to see I don't think that but see, I think that's part of it. I don't think that they ever trusted him enough in Hollywood.
No, that wasn't it. They didn't want to. They couldn't insure him.
Okay,
because of the drug problems. They were scared to take the gamble on him.
But then, if you go back, and I got you that for Christmas that one year, the NBC. Richard,
yes,
dude, those are genius skits.
That's Richard. That's Richard. That grew up around the junkies, the whores, the pimps, the players. That's Richard. Hollywood was scared of Richard. You got to know they were scared of that.
Well, but you kind of disagreed with this at one point. Let me ask you this question again now, since we're talking about it. And I know we're done, but we got to get to this. Jerry Seinfeld says, if I would have grown up in a brothel in
Peoria,
Illinois.
Yeah,
Peoria. My comedy would be different than the comedy that he does.
What's the deal with this guy's in my mom's?
So
what's the deal with all these men coming out of her bedroom? This Seinfeld. What's the deal with my mom whoring her? What's the deal with the gangbang? One in my mom's and in my mom's, and my mother says to me, Jerome, get back to your room, because I'm that name Jerome.
But so then it is also culture where you developed your culture from.
Right.
I don't know, man. All these things you're right. I think we did miss out on not doing it. But isn't it eerie that it's the Gene Wilder and that relationship that they had, and that even though they didn't hang out afterwards, there was some kind of bond with them. And that's the miss, man. And that's who was supposed to be there. Originally, right. The idea was it was him that was supposed to be there. And if that would have taken place earlier, does that change his movie career?
Right.
Doesn't change Gene Wilder's.
Let me real quick, because I know we're running over, but you can't talk about this without bringing up the Richard Pryor Gene Wilder factor. But two quick things. I love it when Gene Wilder had this quote when he talked about comedy and the physicality of it. Sometimes, if the physical thing you're doing is funny, you don't have to be funny doing it. Just be real.
Yeah.
The rest will take care of itself. And my last thing is the Young Frankenstein, when even Mel Brooks was like, I fought him tooth and nail on the idea of Young Frankenstein singing Putting on the Ritz. And boy, was I wrong. this is the thing that gives me the hope. And this is why sometimes I cling to this and I get a little misty-eyed. You just need to be right once.
Yeah.
And it can change everything. So, you know.
And I like when Mel Brooks said to him, I have to apologize to you. That is the reason we made the movie. That's the best part of the movie.
Right. So you know, I'm confused by this life thing. I don't know what God has in store for me, what my deck of cards is, but I am so banking on just being right once. I wouldn't be right a bunch of times, but I've been wrong so much up to this point with a little bit of sprinkled rightness, I guess, in moments. But, you know, I'm Matt Damon in Rounders, man. I'm pushing all my chips to the center of the table, and God willing, with this damn movie, I want to beat Teddy, the KGB. Boyachich! Just all night, he check me. He beat me, straight up. Paid that man his money. I need to beat Teddy KGB, dude. I need to beat him, man.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Like you said, you only have to be right. You make these people money once. They help you be right the next time.
I like that. I like that. Boy, I'm telling you, Andy, your is bigger now. Jesus, man.
Give out some dates?
Please.
All right, man. We are, you listen to this, we're going to be in San Antonio. And that is August 1st to the 3rd, man. San Antonio. Looking forward to being back out there. August 8th through the 10th, we're going to be at the Mic Drop Comedy Club in San Diego. Back. Love that club. October 22nd through the 23rd, Stand Up Live. This is a nice run. I'm liking every place.
Yeah.
I really enjoy going there. Stand Up Live, where I started at. August, that was also August 22nd to the 23rd, Stand Up Live. That's in Phoenix, downtown. August 24th, the Rialto Theater in Tucson. Guys, come support, man. I want this sold out already. I wanted to show Aries, like I could pull some people from my hometown. And I'm looking like, okay, never mind. Can you come support? Come on, man. Make me feel a little bit better about myself. August 30th through September 1st, we're at the Houston Improv. September 7th, one night only at the Complex in Salt Lake City, Utah. September 13th and 14th, Hartford Funny Bone. September 20th and 21st, we're at the Improv in Kansas City, Missouri. My birthday. I am going to be drinking and hanging out that night.
Yay! Yeah. The boys are back in town. Yeah. And when the boys are back, there ain't no fooling around.
And we're going to go get some barbecue, the Kansas City barbecue, mustard on white bread. Let's see what we got here. October 4th, we're going to be at the Royal Oak Music Theater in Michigan. One night only. October 5th, we're going to be at the Apollo Theater in NYC, man. We're doing it. We're in New York City. You're going to come out early, though, for that, right?
Yes.
So we're going to run around?
Yeah.
I got a few places I want to take you to eat. October 17th, we're at the Vancouver Playhouse. That is our last stop in this Canadian thing that we did this year. So come on out, support that club. Support the theater, you guys. It's one night only, October 17th. October 18th to the 20th, we're going to be at Spokane Comedy Club in Washington. October 25th to the 27th, we're at the Improv in Tampa. October 30th through November 3rd, we are at the Chicago Improv. And November 8th through one night only again, that's Hawaii Theater. That's in Honolulu. We'll be out there. And I missed something. I know I missed something because I know that we had, October 11th and 13th, we're going to be at the Orlando, Florida Improv. I missed that somewhere. I don't know. After Apollo Theater, because I was so excited about taking you to go eat some places. Yeah, man, that's it.
One time, my mom was by two different men. One guy had a in her ass, and the other one through her. His name was Ronald Williams.
That's the show, man.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit SpearsburgPod.com.